delighted today to have Ian Thomas with us. Ian is the CEO of Kindred Credit Union. Welcome, Ian. How are you?
Hey, Lawrie. Thanks for having me. Great to see you.
So let's talk about your role as a CEO and your organization. Can you tell us, what do you do every day and what size is Kindred, where are you based, etc.?
As a CEO of Kindred Credit Union, we are headquartered in the Waterloo Region, Southern Ontario. 8 branches, about 2.2 billion AUM, and 26,000 members, and about 240 staff, depending on the day. And so, but yeah, we've been in business since 1964. Started in humble roots, like many of our credit union system colleagues, and have grown over the years and morphed, and a very exciting place to be.
That's great. So, what is Kindred's purpose, mission, vision, however you want to describe that?
Yeah. So, I guess the official tagline is cooperative banking that connects values and faith with finances, inspiring peaceful, just, and prosperous communities. So that's kind of the official tag. And in terms of really what that means is around being intentional with finances. And so it isn't just about how we give or support into the community. It's actually what we enable our members to do with their finances to make a difference in the communities that they live in and work in and participate and do life in, really.
Okay. And let's talk a little about the faith aspect, because I think it's an important part of your organization. Yeah. Do you have to have a background or be someone who goes to, say, church regularly to be a member of the credit union? How does that work?
Yeah, it actually used to be. That's actually how it was founded. Back many, many years ago, there were 22 Mennonites that got together, each put $1 into a box and said, we want to use this so that other Mennonite farmers are actually able to get loans and grow their businesses. And so really up until 2010, you needed to be a member of a Mennonite church or an Amish brethren in order to join the credit union. But in 2010, there was many calls on the credit union from people in the community that said, we really like what you're about, but can we join? What would that look like? So they actually changed the bond of association and expanded membership for people who are open and willing and understand how the credit union does business, but then would be invited to join. So now, 2016, we changed the name from Mennonite Savings and Credit Union to Kindred Credit Union. And now anyone who likes what we're doing, wants to inspire peaceful, just, and prosperity in their communities, welcome to become members.
Yeah. And so, I was online reading up about you folks, and you have this thing called the Community Inspiration Framework. And I believe there's 10 themes. Could you talk a little bit about that framework and maybe 2 or 3 of the themes within it?
Sure. Yeah, so really it helps us guide the organization in terms of how it allocates resources, how it is intentional about impacting the community. So it isn't just about a giving framework necessarily. It's thinking about where do we want to show up and what do we want to do. I think 3 key things that we would really be highlighting now would be affordable housing, safe and affordable housing, food security, and then the other one would be financial literacy, which I think kind of makes sense as a credit union. So again, we aren't just looking at where we're giving as we think about community gardens, as we think about supporting local farmers. How do we make sure that healthy food is available to people in the community? So that could include grants and contributions. It might also look in terms of loan policies. It might look at other ways where we could volunteer and activate our staff to go and help and participate in the community.
So the affordable housing, and you have this very interesting product that I do want to put it on my old product manager hat, talk a little bit about the Affordable Housing GIC. So tell us what that is.
So this is first of its kind in Canada, where, especially in the Waterloo region, it is sort of housing availability and housing affordability are 2 real pressing issues for the region in general. And really, as we kind of looked at that continuum of providing emergency shelter for folks right the way through to home ownership, is we're seeing there's a lot of spaces in between. So how do we make sure that those who want to get into homes and have sort of permanent home housing, how can we be a part to support that? So historically, we perhaps would have looked through and said, let's look at our credit policies and how can we facilitate that. This is kind of the next step up, is saying for members of the community who want to actually put a deposit, this money actually then gets set aside and to be lent out against affordable housing initiatives. And so it's literally a sort of a one-to-one, if you will. And in the first few weeks, we have raised, or I think we've gathered over $500,000 in deposits. We've actually secured our first affordable housing project, actually, to lend against as well. So all this in a very short period of time, which I think speaks to the importance on a lot of people's minds about how this kind of fits in our community.
So I'm a member. I want to get the Affordable Housing GIC. I take I put it in a term deposit. It's a term deposit, right? Okay.
Term deposit, yep.
And then I'm paid an interest rate. Then you folks take the money, and I think I'll ask you more about this in a sec, but basically the money is then going over, instead of loaning that out to another member as a mortgage, you're loaning it out to an organization that's going to build affordable housing. Do I have that right?
Correct.
Okay. And so sorry, go ahead.
No, and that is the piece that it's almost a, sort of a block around where typically as a credit union would work. You would get deposits, they go into the pool, and that pool gets lent out to the community. In this instance, it goes into a fund, like an actual dedicated fund that says these funds will only be used for affordable housing initiatives.
Okay. And then so whoever you're working with gets the loan of those funds, they pay that loan back with some sort of interest rate back to you. Okay.
So this is, so both would be considered market rate.
Okay.
So we're paid, so when members come in, we don't think that members should have to sort of absorb a discount for doing good in the community. So we would pay sort of a competitive rate on the GIC product. And then with the affordable, for the affordable housing, they would pay a sort of a market type rate for the interest. So that is, and what we are ensuring though, is that capital is available and supported for those. So we making sure that our policies are adjusted to ensure that these projects are able to go forward, and that, for the unique needs that those organizations have, that we aren't making them unnecessarily go through hoops that they, that are more challenging for them to go through.
Yeah. And I think you guys are working with a community organization to help distribute the funds, as I understand as well. So which is good, because they'll have an eye on where the help is needed most and who are the best partners, I would imagine.
Well, and this is it, and sort of, very much play to your strengths, right? Stay in your lane, those kinds of things. We're a good financial institution, so we're great at gathering deposits. We're great at lending money out. We're great at managing risk and connecting, sort of borrowers and depositors. So let the organization that's connected to the community, that says, here's the need, this is let them do their great work, and for us to come along and partner with them, and collectively we're able to accomplish more than ourselves on our own.
Yeah, and it's really tying into, I think people feel good, I would imagine, in their ability to help. This housing issue is everywhere. Certainly in British Columbia, it's an issue across Canada, across the U.S. So I really like this initiative, and so I will give a plug. If you're a Waterloo resident, you got to check out this GIC, because why not earn a great return, but also know that you're helping to put people in housing, which is desperately needed. So there's my plug.
Thank you very much, Lawrie. And that's the thing. And regardless of where they are in Ontario, we have, you can join Kindred through our app. And so again, you can join online and do all those great things. But again, that's our whole piece, is that people can take their money and have an impact directly.
Yeah. No, and you're the first to do this.
We are.
Oh, cool. Well, congratulations. I'm going to turn it to some broader questions now. I mean, you've worked in the credit union system for a while, and what keeps you in the credit union system? Why do you like working for a credit union?
Well, I think I've been a credit union member. It was my first account. It almost feels scripted, but I can tell you it's true. I think I was in grade 4 and my dad took me down to the local credit union to open my first account. And I've been a member ever since. And then I've really had I've worked in various sectors. I've worked in, for the larger organizations as well. But the credit union just feels like home. And I think it's partly is for the work you get to do. And I know it seems a bit cliche, but I think this is where you have the ability to, what I call, put your fingerprints on the business, is that you're big enough to do the work that needs to be done to help members as they grow in their family, and life stage needs changes. So you're big enough to do that, but you're small enough to then say, how can we be nimble? What can we respond to? What can we join forces and be a part of, as opposed to thinking that, you're just a cog in the wheel, in the machine. And so those are the pieces that really sort of keep me here. That's what drew me here. And, I think it's just the best place to be, in my opinion.
Well, I would agree.
Yeah.
As a CEO, and you're learning as you go, what advice do you have for, people who would like to be a CEO? What are the characteristics that make you good at your job?
I think one is surround yourself with people of integrity and who are smarter than you. And I think that is one. I was about to say like-minded people, but I don't think that's the case. I think that's what makes a good CEO, is that you're surrounded with people who aren't always like-minded. I think they're maybe sort of values aligned or outcome driven, but in terms of the how kind of gets done. So that would be one. The other one is not needing to be right. And I think that I always say best ideas win. I don't need to be right, but it is my job to ensure that as we make decisions, is that we are putting the best ideas on the table, and the best ideas win, regardless of what the title is of the person or the teams that suggest. So I think those are the two ones, and I think the other one is around being okay to be unpopular. And I think over the last number of years, as we've gone through pandemics, as we're looking to the future, and sort of the uncertainty is having to make decisions, and decisions aren't always easy. They're not always comfortable. They're not always popular, but that's part of what comes with the job. It's invigorating at times. It's lonely at other times, but I would say it's rewarding. As I look back on my journey, it's rewarding.
And you kind of look in your crystal ball there. What are some trends that you believe that every credit union will need to address to stay relevant and competitive in the future, in the upcoming years?
I think if I can maybe answer that a little bit differently, I think one of the temptations credit unions are going to have to resist is trying to be like the banks. And I think that because, you talk about payments modernization, you talk about open banking, and oh my goodness, and this is what the fintechs are doing. And I think if credit unions can take the parts that have allowed them to be successful, which is to be community oriented, and then shift that into a digital world and saying, well, what does it mean to be digital community? So maybe it's other individuals that don't live in the same neighborhood, but have the same ethos or philosophy, and saying, how do we take that? How do we, instead of talking about the legislative reasons behind open banking, flip it on its head and saying, how do we make the member the hero of the story in open banking, as opposed to look what we can provide you through open banking technology? So I think the temptation is to resist the push, and say, how do we bring our credit union roots and some of the elements that have been allowing us to be successful, but also that actually speaks in terms of our values, which is putting the member first. Yeah. And so I think that's going to be the hardest temptation, because the drive will be, oh, this is cool. This is a neat feature. That institution is doing it, and stopping back and saying, what's the game we want to play? Yeah. But we still need to deliver it.
Yeah. And what's your thoughts on the land of mergers and credit unions these days? There seems to be, a a lot going on.
Yes. And that is, I think that is this as we look for talent, as we look for scale, as we look for efficiencies and all those things, it's a drawing card. And I think you've seen it across, the Canadian credit union system, is the amount of consolidation that's happening. And I think it's a good thing. I really do. I think it is important to ensure that the motives are the right thing. If it's for scale, I think things just come as you get bigger, but so do the challenges and the ability to pivot and all those kinds of things. But I think if you can sort of say, how is this in the best interest of my members? How is it the best interest of my employees and the teams? And how does 1 + 1 = 3? Yeah. Then I think you've got a winning combination, because really you're pooling in with other organizations that have different but similar stories about starting from the roots, serving with a group that hasn't been served or wasn't served at the time, putting members and looking to make an impact. So you take all of that energy and that shared history and put it together. I think some pretty cool things can come out of it. But It really starts with intentions in the beginning.
Yeah, and fit, and what is the motivation? So no, that makes a lot of sense. So this is the formal part of the interview over, but I do have a couple of fun questions. Are you open to this? Okay, so I have this a little vault, because these questions are golden, so they got to be under lock and key. Has a really tough combination that I've. That's the sound of the vault opening.
Probably the same password as my luggage.
Yeah, I think it is. Okay. So I don't think you're allowed to at Kindred, but if you could have a background song at work as you're at your desk or walking around, what would that background song be for you?
Well, the one I often just sing, so maybe it is my own, is Friends in Low Places. Always just a big Garth Brooks fan. Okay. So I think that would be, and anything really of the country genre would sort of make it into that. But then if I need sort of like I'm going into a big board meeting, need a pump up song, I might switch into the 80s, maybe go with a little Journey.
I thought you were going to say Journey.
So there it is.
Okay, those are good choices. I'll give you one more. If you found a penguin in your freezer, what would you do?
Ask him how he's enjoying his vacation.
Okay. I knew you could take that one, so thank you very much for indulging me. Hey, it's been just awesome talking to you. I'm so proud of the work that you're doing at Kindred, and I just wish you the best luck for the organization. And I do really like that Affordable Housing GIC. So it's a meaningful contribution, I think, to what is happening with housing in our country and in our cities. So thank you for that, and thanks for your time today, Ian. I appreciate it.
Lawrie, thanks for having me. Always great to see you. Glad you're doing well. And let's both keep doing the great work we do.
Let's do it. All right. Cheers.
Thanks,
Bye.
Lawrie. Bye.